Hi guys, it's Emily from Honourable Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my top books of 2021. Now, at the time of filming this, it is the 23rd and none of this month, but there's one book from December has reached into the top books of 2021. But there is one book that may well have a place, but that's a Jenny Colgan book, so I will put that in the comments if it's reached the top bits and if it needs a mention. But there was only one book in December that got into the top 10, so I thought I'd film a bit earlier. I don't think there's going to be any books that are going to beat my top 10, but I have got a top 10, and this is actually in order this time. The top 3 are very specific order. The rest could be at any point depending on what mood I'm in. But I've got a top 10 and I've got 5 honourable mentions because they're 5 books that have stayed with me this year, 5 books that I've really enjoyed and 5 books that I really want to celebrate. But they didn't quite make it into the top 10. So I thought I'd show you those and then I'll show you in reverse order. I love giving you guys challenges. What do you think my top book of 2021 is going to be? Those of you that know me really well may well guess. Although Ange, when I chatted to Ange from Ange's Book Chatter, she didn't guess it. She kind of thought she knew roughly the author, but she didn't guess it. So I'm wondering if any of you lot will guess what my favourite book of the year is. Or even if you can guess what's in my top 3. I'd love to write in the comments if you're guessing. So when you're listening to this bit right now, pause it. See if you can pick one of my top 3 books. Even if you can't pick the top book. But if you can pick one of my top 3, write it in the comments and then let me know if you got it right. I'd love to hear the answers to this. And also, I'm going to already say in the comments below, let me know what your favourite book of 2021 is going to be. I'm really looking forward to watching these videos when they come out. So my honourable mentions are, it was obviously going to be Tidelands by Philippa Gregory, because I read this at the start of the year and I loved it. Dark Tides I didn't enjoy as much, but I really thought this was beautifully well written. It was a book not sort of in the Tudor era like most of Philippa Gregory's books, but it's set in 1648 and it's during the Civil War, and it's a really good book. So I had to give this a mention because it was deservedly really good. I'm keeping it because I got the series, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I did enjoy the other. Now, one that didn't quite get in the top 10, but is probably one of my favourite classics. I buddy read it with the lovely Ange from Angie's Book Chatter, Danny from Spinelli Speaks, and Laura from Book Bubbler. This had to be mentioned. It was Ace of Eden by John Steinbeck. I thoroughly love this. It has got one of the ultimate villainesses, one of my favourite baddies ever written, Kathy, and it's got some really goodies and it's brilliant. It's a well-written book. It's one of the top books of this year. One of my favourite modern classics. I just loved it. Didn't like Grapes of Wrath, but loved this so much it had to be mentioned. A YA book that really stood out to me, but again, because it's YA, that's not necessarily something that, I don't know, it's brilliant, but it didn't quite, it got knocked off the top spot by another book, which I'll tell you what that book was soon. Steffi doesn't talk, Reese can't hear, they understand each other perfectly. Love isn't always a lightning strike, sometimes it's the rumbling roll of thunder. Really loved this. I thought the disability rep in it was brilliant. Thought it was really cosy, contemporary, YA contemporary, and I really enjoyed it. And it's one that I'm so glad I read. And I'm definitely going to reread that at some point. Then again, she didn't quite make it into the top 10 this year because there were so many top 10 books this year. But again, one of my favourite authors ever, Defy the Night by Bridget Kavanaugh. This is the first in one of her new series. It is about King Harriston and his brother Prince Corec, and then we've got Tessa Cade, who's one of the Ultimates. I don't think this quite got into it, like I said, because this is one of my favourite books of the year. Like I said, it's not just because it's not in the top 10, it's one of the favourites. But at the time, because obviously it's got like an epidemic in it, I think for me that kind of knocked it off the spot because it was just a bit too close to home at the moment. We're obviously still going through quite a lot at the moment, and it was that. But it's very YA and I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. The romances in this was really good. It was a brilliant book. If you like about A Curse to Dark and Lonely, then you will enjoy this. It's really beautifully written, and I will pick up all of Bridget Kavanaugh's works. Then a book that made me laugh, and this whole series has made me laugh, and one that I really needed, and I'm I'm going to have to reread this series when I go low again. By Mummy Sloshed, and that's the last in the By Mummy series. And it's just brilliant. I loved it. I got given this by the lovely Gaia from Gaia Athena, and it was just the funniest book going. It was just brilliantly well written. It's about motherhood, and it's motherhood in such a real way, and I just loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's rude, it's crude, it's naughty, it's showing the other sides of motherhood, and I'm definitely rereading this series ASAP. I think that might be another series to be rereading in 2022. You never know. But those are the 5 honourable mentions. I'm leaving them in places on my shelves because I've got to put them all away. And now I've got my top 10. I've got 2 classics. I've got one, I think there's only one historical fiction actually, that's not bad. 1 non-fiction, and the rest are contemporaries. That sounds about right for me, doesn't it? But again, it was really hard to pick this top 10. The top 3 have been my top 3 for so long, so that they were never in doubt. But the rest of the top 10 were really hard to pick because, like I said, you've seen the other 5. I've read some amazing books. I've read nearly 400 books this year, and a lot of them have been amazing. I can't wait to find out what books are going to make it into the top next year. It's going to be really interesting. But to go in at number 10, I will talk about these books a little bit more because obviously they're my top 10. The Patchwork Girls by Elaine Everest. Now, I was gifted this by the publishers to read and review, and it is Elaine Everest's most recent work. It's not part of the Woolworths Girls series, which I read and loved. I've got another series of hers, the Tea Shop Girls, even though there's only 2 books in that series, so I don't think it counts as a series. It's just 2 books, a duology, sorry. But I will be reading them next year. But this is a standalone book, and when I say it's good, it is. I thought I loved the Woolworths Girls series. That is probably one of my favourite series of all time. I may do a top series book this year. When I tell you guys my series goals for next year, I think I will put what series have stood out to me in 2021. But this is a standalone. It's about, again, set in World War II, which she's really good at. Set in 1939. And after the sudden and tragic loss of her husband, Helen is returning home to her mother's house in Biggin Hill, Kent, the one place she vowed never to go back to. Alone and not knowing where to turn to, Helen finds herself joining a local women's sewing circle, despite being hopeless with the needle and thread. These resourceful women not only do they mend clothes, quilts and woolly hats, but their friendship mends something deeper in Helen too. Lizzie is a natural leader, always ready to lend a helping hand or a listening ear. Meanwhile, Effie has uprooted her life from London to keep her 2 young girls safe from the bombing raids. This is brilliant. This has actually got a real mystery element in it, which gives it an extra bit of excitement. It was cosy, exciting. It was exciting more than I've read, because I think Elaine Everest does mix some real hard-hitting bits into her storylines, and a lot of them do have a slight mystery element. But this has like a was her husband murdered? What happened? What was it to do with it? It's really interesting, as well as the wartime bits, as well as the characters that you love, the descriptions. She's just amazing. Elaine Everest is my favourite of all my wartime authors, and is one that I recommend to all of you that like books set in World War II. So that's number 10. So that goes, I think that goes around here. Then my second favourite classic of 2022 is Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I read this for Victober, and this stood out as probably my favourite book of Victober, and not counting obviously my Brontes. When I say to you this is beautifully written, I can't say it enough. It is probably one of my absolute all-time favourite books. I got given this by the lovely Carrie Ann, who was on Women Versus Books, but she hasn't put up a video in a long time. And this is mysterious. It's exciting. It's scandalous. It's, oh my goodness, it's brilliant, brilliant. But again, an ultimate baddie in this, which I can't tell you because I can't tell you anymore. I want to read more of Mary Elizabeth Braddon's books because this was incredible. It got me. It's fast-paced. It's exciting. It's beautifully well written. I've really had problems with classics this year, but this was just incredible. I can't describe to you how much I loved it, and how much I cannot wait to reread it at some point. And it's obviously a beautiful edition, so loved it. If you like exciting, if you like scandalous, if you like oh, what's the word to describe it? There is a certain word. Oh, it's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant book. Loved it. Now, yes, if you think about some of my favourite contemporary authors, they're pretty much all in this pile. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of my favourite contemporary authors. They had to go in the top 10. They're all incredible. This book I buddy read with the lovely Ange from Ange's Book Chatter. This is The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. I love this. Ange, I think, only rated it 4 stars. I rated it 5. It was brilliant. It's a beautiful edition. It was one I bought full price because, do you know what? I didn't even wait for it to go into paperback because it was... I've loved The Switch by Beth O'Leary. That's probably my favourite of hers. Love The Flat Share. So I think literally every year one of her books has gone in my top 10. This is brilliant. It is about two people that go on a road trip together. They were together, then they broke up, and this is their journey. We go from their past when they first met to their current lines. We've got other amazing fun characters. We've got some exciting bits. It's a thoroughly great book and one that I flew through, and I love Beth O'Leary's works. She's got a new book coming out, I think April next year. I'll be buying it. I'll be buddy reading it with Ange. I cannot rave about this author enough. It is so... She writes characters so incredibly. She writes such strong characters. But she also writes their flaws in a way that you can really love them. Like, the characters in this are just brilliant. I think, yet again, I love the secondary characters more. I loved Addie's sister. I can't remember her name of it. I really enjoyed her more than I enjoyed Addie, actually. Addie's ex Dylan, loved him. Found him really sexy. He sounds really good, but oh my goodness, I absolutely love this, and it's brilliant, brilliant book. I do love the sister bit. You know me and my sister bit, so it's a brilliant book. Now, I've actually included a non-fiction book in this, and I think those of you that obviously in the UK at the moment, it's a medical memoir, and it's it's The Courage to Care by Chrissy Watson. I could have included many other books by this. Like, I think The Comfort Book by Matt Haig should probably have been shown in this book. There's so many anxiety books and other books, but I thought I mentioned that The Comfort Book in my top non-fiction books, but I think I wanted to put this one in the top 10 because this made me cry. Now, this is about a nurse and her journey. Now, she was nursing. She left nursing for a while. I know her first book was she had a non-fiction book that she wrote as well about, I can't even remember her name, The Language of Kindness. And she left nursing for a while, but she went back during the COVID crisis, of the first COVID crisis. I think we're going through our third one now. When's it going to end? I don't want to talk about it, but this made me cry because we hear about her journey in nursing and the different areas of nursing she worked at. She worked in various different bits of it. But the bits that killed me, obviously, it was still quite close. I've got quite a lot of other medical memoirs down there about the nurses and the medical professionals that have worked through the COVID crisis. And this one really hit home. I'm going to try and read another one next year, but not right now because we're going through the third wave. And yeah, it made me cry. But she's beautifully well written. I think the other bits, it wasn't just the COVID bits that made me cry. But we've all supported the NHS through everything they've gone through with all this. I'm part of the NHS through the optics side of it, and I only vaguely touched on it, but these guys were front line and we all admire them. But this book is incredible, and it's one, if you want to hear about the COVID crisis from not just the doctors, the nurses do so much bloody work. You guys know, I just think this is an incredible book, and I thoroughly recommend it. I paid full price for it, and I would pay full price all over again. Brilliant book. Please pick it up if you want to hear about that. Maybe not now at the moment. Maybe it's a little bit too close to home with everything. Now, my book that entered the top 10 this month and that knocked off A Quiet Kind of Thunder is I think it's the 3rd or 4th in the series, An Island Christmas. Because it's the 3rd or 4th in the series, I can't tell you too much about it. But I can tell you it got into my top 10 of the year. I read 2 of the other books from the series. I've got The Island Hotel, or The Christmas Hotel or something, that I'm reading on Boxing Day. So by the time this goes live, I would have already read it. I wonder if that would have knocked this one off. But this is, it's incredible. It's, to me, my best book in the series so far. I loved the end of Speech. I've loved the summer, I think it's the Summer at Seaside Kitchen or something. Oh my god, it's amazing. And it's got characters that we loved. So it's got Saif. We meet the doctor who entered the book in the last series, The Summer of the Seaside Kitchen. And I think that entered the book in The End of Speech, which was the second in the series. And we've obviously got our leading lady, Flora, and her partner, Joel. And it's beautifully written and, again, really hard-hitting. It's diverse, which I love. It's got some real diverse relationships, and it's got some real hard-hitting bits. And a character that we know and love has eyes in it, and it broke my heart. And I just love Jenny Colgan's writings. I'm putting the most up-to-date book in the series on, obviously, Boxing Day, but I've heard she's got another book out next year. I'll be reading it. I'll be going for it. I pray she carries on with this series. I am going to sneaky peek. I'm going to be including at least one more Jenny Colgan series for my series goal next year. I wasn't going to put it in my series goal, but I am. And that'll be a reread of a series because it's a series I've loved, but there's got a new book that came out this year that I want to add to it. So, yeah, love this book. Love Jenny Colgan's writing. She is probably one of my absolute all-time favourite classic authors. Just realised there's Sarah Morgan's the only other author, contemporary author that's not in here. Now, my favourite classic of the year, and this was actually a really easy decision. This was Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. I read this with the lovely Gemma from Read a Book Gem, my booktube bestie. And a sneaky peek for those of you that will be watching the Elizabeth Gaskell ranking video that's coming up in January. This is in the top bit. I'm trying to decide between this and the other book. I've got this kind of tie between this and one other book about which one's my favourite. This, Wives and Daughters, is Elizabeth Gaskell. Sorry, I'm getting a sore back today. Last book she wrote, and it didn't quite get finished because she died right at the end. And so the last chapters were put together by someone else, imagining how she would have finished it off. But this has got about wives and daughters and a family, and Molly is just, oh my goodness, Molly is one of my favourite characters. And the dad in this is one of my absolute favourite dads, and the stepmum who I hate, and the stepsister who annoys me. And there's a bit of romance, and it's easy to read, and it's just an incredible book, and I thoroughly loved it. It is everything. Considering how big it is, it's probably one of my favourite. It's probably going to be one of my favourite classics ever. It's just incredible. I loved it. Read it for my birthday month with Gemma, and it was just a perfect book. Now, my book that rated number 4. And this book, I didn't know whether to put it in my... This book has to go down as one of my favourite books. It's a Cathy Bramley book. It's a contemporary. I don't normally keep contemporaries. You know I don't. But the title of this should give you some idea why I kept it and why I will be rereading it. It's a Patchwork Family. And it's about a patchwork family. How family is not just your blood, it's your friends. And you know how important that is to me. I've got 2 of my best friends I would class as family, Tracy and Helen. And they are 2 of my best friends. And I love that I've got extra family. I've got my booktube family, you guys. I've got my work family. I've got various other people that are very important to me. And this is brilliant. This is about Gina, who has gone with the flow for years. And then she runs her own child-minding business from their cottage at the edge of the Evergreens, in a Victorian house and home to 3 octogenarians who have far too much fun for their age. But when the Evergreens is up for sale, Gina and her family of friends face losing their home. To protect their business and save them from eviction, Gina must take a stand and fight for the first time in her life. What I didn't realise was that this book has connections to other books. And I've since read some of their other classics and their other contemporary books. And I blooming loved it. I really loved it. I really love the family element. I love the found family element. I loved it. Cannot wait to reread it. This is going to be another book I will reread. I want to read I think this is also connected to the Lemon Tree Cafe, which I need to find. It's on my Amazon wish list, but I need to find it in the charity shops. I think Ivy Lane, Appleby Farm, Conditional Love. There's so many brilliant books here. Just loved it. But this is my favourite of Cathy Bramley's, and it's the 4th book. So, are you ready for the top 3? Have you guessed any? Can you see if you can guess any of the books that are in the top 3? The top 3 have been so close. I'll be honest with you, all the positions of them are very close. I was quite surprised when the top book knocked what I thought was going to be the top book off its place towards the middle of the year. But the top three is very close, and I say they're very close in place. It was decided towards the end, and I have not regretted it. I've not gone back and changed the position, but it's been an amazing book. So book at number 3 is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I read this with the amazing Chloe from Chloe Reads Books, my other BookTube bestie, and it is incredible. I think I should have it's on my YA shelf, but I think I should probably put it with my historical fiction. It's about the reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo, and she's finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous, scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving show business in the late 80s, and the end, of course, the 7 husbands along the way. This is brilliant. I thoroughly love this. I love Daisy Jones and the Six, which I now want my own copy of because I borrowed my sister's copy. This was brilliant. This is incredible. I read it with Chloe, and we both absolutely loved it. I've got Malibu Rising, I know is coming to me for my Christmas present for my sister, so that I would have had this by the time that you guys could see this. But this was brilliant. It was every bit incredible. Again, the way the timelines go together, because you obviously hear Monique's story and wondering why she got picked by Evelyn Hugo. And there are some real twists and turns in this that I did not expect. It's brilliantly well written. It's an incredible book. It was all over BookTube a few years ago, and I know why. It was every bit amazing. Loved it. 3rd place all the way. I plan to read a lot more Taylor Jenkins work because I really loved it. I loved it. Now the top 2, like I said, they could swap places in some ways because they're both brilliant. This one, the first one, number 2 in this place is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This was my favourite book of the year until number 1 came into play, and that it's only narrowly knocked it off the top spot. Number 1 and 2 could easily swap between places. You all know that I've got chronic pain. You all know what I live with. And I really struggle to find books about chronic pain. We've got loads of books about anxiety and depression, getting there on disabilities, things are getting there. But chronic pain is not written about enough. And this was like, for the first time, obviously I'm not black, I'm quite curvy, but I'm not black, I'm not, you know, I'm very different in some ways to Chloe Brown. I've got 2 sisters, that counts. They're brilliant. I can see the family dynamics there. But it was like I was finally reading a book about someone who got what I go through. I've described it to Ange, because Ange has got her own chronic health issues. And I said, it's like for the first time, you're actually reading about people that understand. It's like, it just doesn't happen very often, people understanding what it's like to live with chronic pain. And this girl I think she has got fibromyalgia. Now, my chronic pain is only in my knee, but it does affect the whole of my life because it does cause chronic fatigue. It's connected to my nerves. So again, if I'm having a rough emotional time, my knee will flare up. It reacts to the weather, it reacts to my stress levels, it reacts to the fact if I don't have enough sleep. So it has similarities with fibromyalgia, but it is only on my knee, the pain, thank God. I count myself very blessed. But again, this book was like looking in the mirror, but it has also, yes, it gets to chronic pain. It talks about things that us sufferers do suffer from, but it's got saucy bits in it. It's got a sexy character called Red Morgan, who's gorgeous. He sounds really gorgeous, and he's got a motorbike. God, I love motorbikes. He's got tattoos. Love them. Though Chris doesn't have either, which makes me no sense, but there you go. But it's brilliant. It's about her getting a life. And now I remember after my car accident, I remember saying there was loads of things I wanted to do in my life. I had to get a life. I had to live because I realised how important life was. So she wants to enjoy a drunken night out. Done that. Ridden a motorbike. Well, I've done that. I've gone on the back of a motorbike. Gone camping. Need to do that. Have meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable sex. Not telling you guys about that. Travel the world with nothing but hand luggage. No good with that. And do something bad. Yeah, I done that. I know it can be a bit naughty. This is brilliant. I thoroughly love this. This is one of my favourite books of all times. I love this book. I was given it by Kat from Brews and Reviews, and I'll never be able to thank her enough for giving me this. Brilliant book. Then lastly, my favourite book of the year by my favourite author ever, someone I used to know by Page Toon. I love Page Toon books. I can't give too many spoilers with this book. It's my favourite colour, which does help, the cover. It's about fostering, which we did as a child. It does involve an accident at some point in this. I sobbed my bloody heart out at various points in this book. And I mean, literally was proper shaking sobbing. It was that, for a book to do that, give you that kind of emotion, it does tell you how beautiful it's written. It's my favourite of all her books, and I've read every single one of them, and this is my absolute favourite ever. It's actually knocked Johnny B. Good off the top, and that was blooming hard. At 15, George, then the then bit is, at 15, George is the foster brother Leah never asked for. An angry and troubled boy who struggles to come to terms with the circumstances. Leah finds herself getting drawn to him. Theo has mysteriously left boarding school and is now at the local state school with Leah and George. When their worlds collide that summer, 3 teenagers formed a bond that they all believe unbreakable. Now, shocking news brings Leah back home to Yorkshire, baby daughter in tow. But Emily's father, Theo, isn't with them, and George has unexpectedly returned. After half a lifetime, have they healed the scars of the past? This is brilliant. The fostering element's written brilliantly. We fostered as a family when I was growing up, and the mum in this, I'm not joking, Leah's mum is incredible. She reminds me of my mum, the way she is and how popular she was, and I love that. I loved the fostering element. I loved the family element. I loved the extra characters that come into this. I loved it. It's brilliant. It's an amazing book. It's very hard-hitting, but it's very good. It is my favourite Page Toon book of all times, and it's one that I can't get out of my head. I really can't. So it had to be my favourite book of the year so far. So that's it. That's my top books of 2021. What were your top books of 2021? Did you guess any of my top 3? Did you guess any of them that they were going to be in my top 10? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. And I want to thank you all for all your amazing support in 2021. I think this is my last video that's going up in 2021. And what a year we've had. It's been a bloody tough year. We thought 2020 was bad, 2021's been hard, and 2022 looks like it's going to get off to an interesting start. But thank you all for being there for me. Thank you all for everything you've done. I hope you liked my goals and everything for next year. I hope you liked that video, and I hope, obviously, I would have gone into a bit more details about my plans for next year. But let's end this note on a high. I am grateful for every single one of you, for all your love and support this year, for encouraging, for some of you for getting me some of these top 10 books, some of these books, for your support, for your caringness, for being there for me. And let's make 2022, even if it can't, we don't know what the year's going to bring, but let's be there for each other, let's support each other, let's end with all the love we can. Thank you all. Love you all loads. Bye bye.